Good chance you've never heard of retinitis pigmentosa, and there's good reason for that, as it affects just 1 in roughly every 4,000 people.
It is considered to be a rare genetic condition, but nevertheless, there are about 100,000 Americans living with it.
I didn't even know this disease existed.
So what exactly is retinitis pigmentosa?
Retinitis pigmentosa is a genetic condition that affects the retina. The retina is the light-sensitive part of the eye that is really the only part of the eye that can do the actual seeing.
The retina's photoreceptor cells are responsible for capturing light, but over time, retinitis pigmentosa causes those cells to break down, with the damage eventually spreading throughout the retina. Symptoms usually begin in childhood.
It's sort of been my whole life. I've known I had bad night vision.
Brothers Quinn and Reed Manning didn't think or know anything was wrong when their symptoms first arose.
We lived in Florida at the time. We were going to Disney World, Universal, things like that. And yes, they could not navigate the Pirates of the Caribbean, in the dark.
We had a field trip to Universal Studios, and we were going through the Mummy ride, through the line. It gets pretty dark in there, and I kept whacking into the barriers, so I had to have my friend guide me through,
For me, it would be the movies ended, right, and you're trying to sneak out before the last credits are still rolling and they haven't turned the lights on, and the boys are a little bit more challenged with that.
This video demonstrates what a healthy eye normally sees, then one affected with retinitis pigmentosa. Huge difference.
And it leaves the patient with sort of a tunnel vision type of an experience. And then in the more advanced stages of disease, even that central vision can get affected, and that would impact one's ability to read or recognize faces. So as you can imagine, can have quite a profound effect on somebody's quality of life.
It was finally when we went to visit Reed at college and we're in the aquarium and he was grabbing onto my arm and I went, really? Seriously?
Martina first took her sons to an optometrist, then an ophthalmologist.
And that's when they were like, oh, something might not be right. And then they sent him to a retina specialist, and the retina specialist was like, something might not be right. And then that's when we went to Duke.
We do all the tests, and they're telling us, yeah, so you have this eye condition that makes it so, the cells in your eyes are dying, you'll go blind eventually.
Well, I did not process it well, I'll put it that way. Yeah, I'm sorry for getting emotional, but I had a hard time with it. Yeah.
Due to its complexity of being a collection of hundreds of genetically different conditions and not a singular one, retinitis pigmentosa is a moving target of sorts. There is no cure.
As we talked about, no cures right now, and unfortunately, no real treatments right now for the majority of these.
So I feel like I can kind of see stuff in the dark if I stare directly at it, but my peripheral vision is completely gone.
As the disease progresses, it can lead to complete and total blindness.
The scary part of it all is the word progression, right? It's bad today, it's going to be worse tomorrow, it'll be worse the next day. This just is going to continue on in that path. So, back then it was just, they had bad vision, deal with it. The fact that it's going to, now that we know more, it's just going to get worse, that's the part that's the challenge.
Really, it's a long-term disease, right? Because the degradation, it happens over decades.
It is out of my control. Listen, I had a very hard time with it for a very long time. I walked the neighborhood crying, probably for months. But eventually I kind of got to this point where, I have to be proactive. I can't just be feeling sorry for myself or my children.
RP is not something anyone can get. It's an inherited disease, passed down generation to generation. Kevin Manning didn't know it, but he was a carrier. He doesn't have RP, but others on his side of the family did.
In the family that we're talking about, it was a more unique kind of a situation where it can actually skip generations, which is something that occasionally happens, yeah.
I was ignorant of it, didn't think it applied to me, right? So this was a big learning shock to the system, honestly. Yeah. And then it's one thing that their eyes are challenged, and now the other thing is that, technically I'm the one responsible for it.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, pretty poor. Right, I don't know what the rating on this video is, but fill in the bad words, right? That's hard to bear. You spend your life trying to do the best you can for your kids, and the big challenge they're going to face is, you caused unknowingly.
Chalk it up to youth, or just being boys. Reed and Quinn are taking their new reality in stride, about as well as anyone could.
At least we're both in it together. We sort of got someone who's going through the same thing. And I don't want to say I was happy to be diagnosed with it. It was that great. But I'm like, you know what? It's not the worst case scenario.
obviously I don't exactly want to go blind, but at the same time, there's not exactly a cure for it, so I don't feel like I should really get too like worked up over it. So it's more just like an acceptance sort of thing of understanding, well, one day, you know, I will have these problems, but right now I don't, so I guess it's just enjoy being able to see what I can.
All right. Unlike the boys, I know how to spell your name. Okay. I guess from you going back, what you were just saying a little bit before, you know, the boys were younger, and you know, you take them places, and you know, if you were somewhere dark, and you know, maybe they didn't see quite as well, but you know, you're at that point, you're not thinking anything of it, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, we would, you know, we lived in Florida at the time. We were going to Disney World, Universal, things like that. And yes, they could not navigate the Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, in the dark. But again, I mean, because I didn't have any perception of this disease or anything like that, it didn't even cross my mind. I genuinely were just like, wow, you know, they don't see as well in the dark as I do. And honestly, there's not that many times when you are just in the dark like that. You know, because normally, even if you're outside at night, there's street lights, and they're not having any kind of issues there, and you're not going to Disney World every week, you know. And so it just kind of goes in and out of your mind. You know, it doesn't, they're not having problems at home, they're playing sports, they're doing all the things that kids would normally do. And then ever so often, these things would come up. And it was finally when we went to visit Reed at college, and we're in the aquarium, and he was grabbing onto my arm, and I went, really, seriously, you know, you can't see in this. I said, you know what, instead of just taking the kids to the optometrist, because they had always been going to an optometrist every year, and the optometrist had been saying, their eyes are great, they have great vision, everything's well, you know, they did all the periphery, everything's fine. And so I took him to an actual ophthalmologist. You know, I took Reed to one, and that's when they were like, oh, something might not be right. And then they sent him to a retina specialist, and the retina specialist was like, something might not be right. And then that's when we went to Duke, and Duke was like, well, we're pretty sure that he has retinitis pigmentosa, and then, but they have to do genetic tests to confirm it. And so he did genetic testing, and that came back positive. And then it was kind of at that time, it was coming out more that many people in Kevin's family had it. And then we also were like, well, we should take Quinn, because he seemed to have some issues in the dark. And therefore, he went and got his testing and came back, and Kevin got his testing as well.
Okay, when did you guys get to Duke? Like, when did you go through the different people, like, when did you guys finally get to Duke?
Duke was in March of last year.
Okay. So coming up on a year.
Yeah, and then Quinn he graduated college, and we didn't take him until like June. So.
How did you guys then make the connection with Kevin's side of the family?
Well, you know, Kevin had told me before that he had an uncle that was blind, but never said why, you know, or said, oh, hard living or something like that. And so I was going, well, you sure your uncle doesn't have anything, or, you know, whatever? And he's like, I don't know. And I actually called his mother when we were on our way to Duke and was like, hey, you know, does Uncle Roger have something? She says, oh, he has retinitis pigmentosa. And I was like, you know, what's that? And then I get to Reed's appointment, and they're like, he has retinitis pigmentosa. And I was like, oh. So that's kind of how, you know, again, I had no awareness that I didn't even know this disease existed, genuinely.
So his mom told you about this right as you guys had gotten to the point of going to Duke, and then you get to Duke and they run the test and they're like, this is what it is.
Yes.
So as a mom, as a parent, how do you process that? You know, like, okay, like they've got this rare, what, like 1 in 4,000?
Yeah, 1 in 3 or 4,000. Yeah. Well, I did not process it well. I'll put it that way. Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry for getting emotional, but I had a hard time with it. Yeah.
I mean, it's your boys.
Yeah.
But it's also something that's out of your control.
It is out of my control. Listen, I had a very hard time with it for a very long time. I walked the neighborhood crying, probably for months. But eventually I kind of got to this point where, I have to be proactive. I can't just be feeling sorry for myself or my children. And so I said, what can I do? Well, the best thing to do is actually create awareness and to get people interested, because if people are interested, then more funding happens for research. And so that's kind of been my mission now.
And so you took it upon yourself.
I started a nonprofit called RP Gene Research Foundation. The kids pick on me because it sounds like RPG, but for, role-playing games. So I started this nonprofit. I'm working with Duke. Duke said that, they've already started doing research on some retinitis pigmentosa, but not the specific gene that runs in Kevin's family. The gene that the boys have and that runs in his family is the second most common gene for retinitis that causes retinitis pigmentosa. And so they're willing and able to do the research on that gene, but they did say that it would take $1.5 million because they want a commitment of $300,000 a year for 5 years, because they have to bring in a special scientist, they have to get an animal model, there's all kinds of expenses involved in that. And so that has just really been my goal, is to try to raise awareness, and funding is basically to turn over to Duke so that they will do the research on this disease.
And that they can do it.
Yeah, and
where
that they
does
can
it stand on that with as far as research, and I guess they know what it is, but they don't know how to find a potential solution.
Right. Well, yeah, they definitely know what it is. And in fact, they had success treating one other form of retinitis pigmentosa, because I think there's almost 100 different forms of it. And they injected a man that had retinitis pigmentosa with a different gene. I think it's actually on the news a couple months ago, and he went from not being able to see his newborn child to being able to see his newborn child. So but every gene is different, and it responds differently. And so there was one particular gene that they found a cure for out of all of them, and it had to do with the way the body metabolizes vitamin A. So once they figured it out, like, wow, this is just related to the body and vitamin A, it was easier for them to find a cure for that, and they could find a way to get the body to metabolize the vitamin A, and then all of a sudden the people got their vision back. But these are like, instead of 1 in 3,000, this is 1 in 30,000. It's even more rare, but it was easier to treat because it was so prescriptive in how, it responds, or, the path it takes. The boys in particular, the gene they have, because it's a dominant gene, you do get one gene from your mother, one from your father. And then, so Kevin would have had a good gene and a bad gene, and then the bad gene came down to the boys. It's 50-50 chance each time. And then also a smaller chance that it activates. And so, some of these genes, because it is considered reduced penetrance, it's just not, it's quite as stable. It doesn't say, oh, it's going to turn on at this age, and oh, this is a progression. And so I think scientists are maybe a little bit more leery to do research on a moving target than one that is like, wow, we know it's going to turn on at 30 and, by 50 or whatever. That's just not the case with this particular gene.
Because as the sun's moving, the lines are coming across. That was the thing that I was like, oh gosh, when seeing that it's not just like one thing, that it's like a multitude of it's not just like it's one thing that they're trying to treat, that there's like 100 or whatever.
Yeah, every one of them's going to, each person, I'm assuming that a gene probably runs in a particular family, but there are about, I think, 100 of genes that can possibly cause retinitis pigmentosa.
Are you surprised, and obviously as a mother, I'd be the same way. Are you surprised at the boys? Because they seem to have as good of an attitude as one could possibly have.
Yeah.
Is that them? Is that maybe their age and where they are in life? Is that being boys? Is that just who they are? Like, what do you attribute their,
Well,
I guess, positive,
I think, part of it is both of them have always had a very good attitude to begin with, but I do think that they have they put it into perspective. They're not working from an emotional standpoint like I am as their mother. They're working from an intellectual perspective, and they do say to themselves, like, okay, there's already a trial out there that just started for the particular gene that they have, okay? And they're thinking there will be a cure before I'm genuinely impacted. Because again, right now, they can see in the dark, just not as well as you and I can see in the dark, and they can see perfectly fine in the day. They don't know whether their progression is gonna progress in 5 years or 50 years. There's no way to know. But what I think they do realize is that we are so right on the edge of a cure that I think their attitude is they feel certain that there will be a cure. So it's easy to have a good attitude when you have hope that a cure is right around the corner.
Yeah. Youth.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's cool. You're like, hey, in 10, 15 years, they'll, hopefully, be in a better spot with it. And
Yeah, and they do, and there's a company called PYC out of Australia that is running trials in several parts of the United States for the PRPF31, is that right? Gene that they have, and they've already done the first trial, and they had success with one participant in the trial. It was a very small trial. I think maybe only 20 people or 15 people, and so now they are going to, but nobody had any negative effects, and that's a good thing. So they're going to another trial where they up the dosage, and it is an injection in the eye. So the thing I didn't realize about trials, and you can talk to the doctor about this, is once you have one genetic trial, you can never have another one. Like once they do, you could do the same one that you had, like in a higher dose, but you couldn't have a different, because they wouldn't know how it might respond. So you have to be very selective if you join a trial to what trial that you join.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be like cooking something. You can't throw in different ingredients and say, well, what caused
exactly.
this outcome?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, I think we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you. How'd you do? That's good, that's good, that's good, all good. Okay, cool. I'm assuming I know how to spell Kevin.
I hope.
Common, you never know. There could be two V's in there.
I'm not creative with it.
Or two.
Very boring.
Could be in different things. Okay, so your memories of the boys, I guess, if you're back at Pirates of the Caribbean, and I know exactly what she's talking about in that queue in there, because it is very dark in there, going up before you get on the ride. You got any memories of that, or as far as the it's too dark in here?
For me, it would be like the movie's ended, right, and you're trying to sneak out before the last credits are still rolling, and they haven't turned the lights on. And the boys are a little bit more challenged with that, right? And of course, it's the age-old thing. Is it because they're boys, right? You grab them by the neck and just help them along. I remember asking them about it one time, and they're like, well, I need more time to adjust, right? So is it just like a delay thing? And then I remember one time we were down in Costa Rica on a service trip, and we're walking around some farm late at night. They were doing a tour, and there was a big water pit on the side, and we're supposed to walk around it. And I really thought one of the boys was just going to walk into the pit if I didn't grab a hold of him and go, this side, where are you going? And yeah, it was very dark, but I just figured, their vision is challenged. And the challenged vision, that's something you deal with. The scary part of it all is the word progression, right? It's bad today, it's going to be worse tomorrow, it'll be worse the next day. This just is going to continue on in that path. So, back then it was just, they had bad vision, deal with it. The fact that it's gonna, now that we know more, it's just gonna get worse. That's the part that's the challenge.
How difficult, I guess, or like where in that process did you then? So what, you had an uncle that couldn't see, right?
Yep.
How did you guys go about the process of connecting that with the boys?
Yeah, so I'm from a big family. My mom's one of 8, my dad's one of 8. There's lots of people around. A lot of them died early, young compared to how people live nowadays because of the lifestyle. right? Everybody smoked, drank, they worked hard lives, right? So things happening was not a surprising event. And then my father's got great vision. He's healthy. He's 85. He's still out and about, walking 3 miles a day. My brother and sister don't have any challenges. I don't have any challenges, so it just never registered. And then it was only, and we're still having vision issues, but I'm thinking, is it glasses? Is it astigmatism? Is it things like that? And then when it was actually the test and they came back with the retina pigmentosa, I can't even say it. And when those words meant nothing to me because I just knew that my uncle was, had legally blind for some reason. And fortunately, my mother does pay attention to words because I still wouldn't have known.
So she knew what the specific was as far as the reason as to why.
Yes.
When did you find out that this was like a hereditary thing, that like, okay, you don't have it, but it's in the family, and it's, like twins or whatever else, or different things that get
due
passed down.
to Duke and this testing, right? I mean, I was ignorant of it. Didn't think it applied to me, right? So this was a big learning shock to the system, honestly. And then it's one thing that their eyes are challenged, and now the other thing is that, technically I'm the one responsible for it.
How does that make you feel?
Oh, pretty poor. Right? I don't know what the rating on this video is, but fill in the bad words, right? I mean, that's hard to bear. You spend your life trying to do the best you can for your kids, and the big challenge they're going to face is, you caused unknowingly.
Unknowingly being the key word. It's not like something you did that.
And you can deal with it today, but it's just going to be worse again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And 5 more years, and 10 more years, 20 more years.
Are you, obviously you know them as well as anyone. Are you surprised their attitude? Because that's one thing I'm like, their attitude seems to be fantastic.
So I'm a little bit of a scientist. I think they got a little bit of that scientist thing, right? You have your emotional response, and then this is a problem to solve. Listening to the progress that's being made at Duke, you can see a trend line. You can see that there's maybe hope at the end of the tunnel. If we didn't see a progression in science, would it be more challenging? Right, so I think that's where they have the positive attitude from, is because it's not a lost battle, right? It's winnable if we put forth effort.
Yeah. That's all you can really do. Anything else I'm missing? I think I've hit everything.
I think so. I think the big thing is going to be, they are going to have that adjustment, right? I mean, there's this hope that science will address this. The question is when, right? And they're young, and every 20-year-old person doesn't see the challenges of the world, right? Everything's rosy, and then life catches up to you, right? And just the changes from when you're 20 to 30. I mean, 10 years is a long time to them. It's not a long time to us. Yeah. And so that's the big concern, right? In 30 years, in 10 years from now, are they still going to be, capable of managing their own lives, or do they need a lot of assistance? And from a parent's perspective, that's, I thought I had 2 more years of college to pay for it. My labor part was done, right? So now there's a big concern of, how much longer until this continues.
We think like long term, like driving and that sort of stuff, and how navigating life.
Navigating, right? I mean, do I have to save up money for the first self-driving car? Right? I mean, the challenges that they'll face and occur as life goes on will be, significant, especially the way society is today. We're not in these small little neighborhoods anymore. So without the progression of science and the investment to make these changes, it's, that picture's a little heartbreaking.
Control what you can control, and
And we get to do a lot more scientific reading than we did before. Because education's an amazing thing.
Okay, I think that's it.
All right, very good.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.